So thank you all for attending today's USA Gymnastics webinar covering safety in the gym. We have our guest speaker today, Steve Cook, who is the sales director for American Athletic, Inc. So just before we get started with today's webinar, we like to let our members and our registrants know a little bit about our guest speaker. So Steve Cook is the Director of Sales at American Athletic, Inc. He oversees the worldwide sales of gymnastics, cheer, and physical education products. So he has over 40 years of experience in sales, marketing, customer relations, leadership, and team building. So he definitely knows a lot about the manufacture of gymnastics equipment and mats specifically. And that's a lot of what we're going to target in today's webinar. It's very important for our member clubs and our member club owners to understand how the quality of your equipment can affect your business and your brand. So that is what Steve is going to talk about today. So his primary focus is growing sales and facilitating growth through participation for new product development. But he is going to share with us his knowledge on equipment and how you can help make sure your gym is in compliance and has the best facility possible, not only for your brand, but for the safety of your gymnast and your organization. So without further ado, we will get started with Steve.
Thank you, Lakeisha. I appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts on safety in the gym. As Lakeisha mentioned, I've been involved on the equipment side of gymnastics since 1973. Prior to that, I spent some time in the gym as both a gymnast and a coach. So needless to say, I've spent considerable number of hours in the gym. And as Yogi Berra, the great baseball player, once said, you can see a lot just by looking. What I'd like to share today is what I've seen in the gyms, the good and the bad, and hopefully not too much of the ugly, but what I've learned about gymnastics equipment, and lastly, perhaps what to expect of the gymnastic industry in the coming years, because we are a developing industry. In order to start the discussion on safety, I think first we have to have a definition of safety. We need to establish our standards, and each gym needs to establish their own standards, which then must be agreed upon by everyone involved. And I'll say that that includes both the staff, the customers, the management. Everybody involved has to know the safety standards, because it's not only going to be how the gym's set up, it's going to be what occurs in the gym day to day. Over the years, every sports environment has some standards that have stayed the same and some standards that have changed. For example, it's pretty much always been the standard that there's no running on a pool deck. But what is permissible on a diving board has changed to the point that in many pools, both public and private diving boards, have been either relocated, removed, or changed. Gymnastics the same. I like to say that it's not your grandmother's gym anymore. Being a grandfather myself, I can relate to this. Just as the amusement park industry has grown from the first merry-go-round to the high-flying roller coasters and death-defying plunge rides, today gymnastics clubs have changed from the part-time gym used with portable equipment that was taken down at the end of each day to the enormous permanent state-of-the-art gym clubs of today. So that's a good sign for our industry that we're continuing to grow and get better. As the sport changes, safety standards also are changing. One advantage of the old portable setups was that if you had to set it up and hook it up every day, your hands were on the tightening devices, so you were checking them every day. Every tie down was actually tested every day. Now we don't always have that same habit, and that's probably a habit that we have to get back to. It's up to all of us to make sure that we keep up with industry standards, and manufacturers' instructions will tell us what to do. Part of our standards are our larger goals, our highest goal obviously being prevention of all accidents, but translated into reality, we need to do all we can to minimize the chance for accidents. And no matter what the legal world wants to tell us, there are accidents. Some things are accidents. lastly, as we set our standards, we should remember that safety includes everything in and around or in connection with our business. I say this as a reminder that we are responsible for our athletes while training or competing home or away. It's up to you to be aware of conditions when competing outside of your gym facility and share what you know with other gyms you go into so that we can have a safer industry for everyone. So our definition of safety includes safe equipment, safe settings, and safe activities. Most discussions of safety have to take into consideration several key influencers. The first is the building and the landlord. You're restricted by the construction of the building, that's obvious, and what you are permitted to do in that building. Building considerations are such things as the makeup and construction of the floor, which floors are strong enough to withhold floor anchors, which are load-bearing walls, the building's overall dimensions, obviously where poles are located. Some things can't be changed, so you're restricted, and it's important that you stay safe within those restrictions. Landlords also have an influence on what you do and influence your safety. Some landlords are fine with drilling as many holes in the floor as possible. Others are not. Some will allow you to dig a pit and loose foam pit. Others will say no. They will influence your next decision in how you lay out your gym. Your insurance company may influence how you lay out the gym and what equipment you use. It's important that you check with them before moving forward. Some accept trampolines. Others say no to trampolines. A newer question that's coming up more recently is the choice between foam pits or airbags. And without saying my having a preference as to which one's safer or which one's more acceptable, I will tell you that they have different history lengths that the insurance companies can lean on. So it's important that you check with your insurance companies. Rules and regulations come from local authorities, governing bodies, industry standards. Local authorities will weigh in on things such as fire codes and occupancy, sanitation issues, health codes. Governing bodies will have opinions on thicknesses of mats, spacing for landing, and spectator areas. The FIG has specific rules and regulations for competitive equipment, but you shouldn't take that to mean that that covers all training and practice areas. Manufacturers will influence your decision on selecting equipment, where it's placed, how it's used, how it's installed. Manufacturers develop and manufacture equipment for specific uses, and it's important that you stay within those uses. And then lastly, the human factor of it. Everybody that comes into your gym will influence your safety standards, from the foot traffic patterns to cue lines to spotting positions to exit paths. Every person in your gym needs to have a place to go, and as we talk about laying out gyms in a little bit, we'll talk about how we plan for that. And then all of these influences have to be part of your planning, and you have to make sure that you stick to your plan and you follow through. I like to divide the safety considerations into 7 habits, and I'm not sure why there are 7 other than the fact it worked for Stephen Covey, so I'm kind of stealing his idea. And I'll try to address these 7 considerations. Hopefully we can cover all of them and turn all into positive habits. So the 7 that I'm going to talk about, and I'll just list them here quickly and then we'll dig into them a little bit deeper, is the first is selection. That's what goes into selecting the equipment you put in your gym. Purposing. For what purpose is the equipment that you are selecting, and does the purpose coincide with the equipment's intended purpose? They're all important things that you need to keep in mind. The next is placement. Where does it go in your gym? How does that fit in connection with all the other equipment in your facility? How does the placement affect entrance, exit, doorways, any gathering areas? So placement will become important. Installation, that's how the equipment is assembled or installed or connected to your building. That's going to be important. Inspection, how often is the equipment inspected, looked at, and you'll find that I'm a big proponent of inspection and creating an inspection system that is habit in your gym and everybody takes part in. Having a paper trail of how you take care of your equipment and how you're looking after it can be very important down the road. Maintenance, what equipment needs regular maintenance, which things need to be lubricated, cleaned, reassigned, things like that. So maintenance is important. And then the last thing that we'll cover is retirement. How long will your equipment last and when's the right time to take it out of service? We in the gymnastics business tend to keep adding equipment, and maybe we're not quite as good about taking things out of the gym that are maybe ready for retirement. So anyway, so there are my seven things that I would like to see turn into habits, and let's dig into them one at a time. So talking about selection, it's basically how are you choosing your equipment and what to buy? What are your considerations? The things that you probably consider are the manufacturer, their reputation, where they're located, their viability, the price, the availability, shipping costs, the service needed, the service that's available, the warranty, the manufacturer's popularity within the industry. In other words, will you see it at events? You want to practice on what you're training on. And then the last thing that will affect your selection probably is your relationship with the company or the salesperson that you like dealing with. And that all goes back to good customer service. So they're all good reasons for how to select things. I will tell you, it's probably best to get everyone's opinion before purchasing, because different people in your gym, different coaches and managers may have a different idea of what and how it's going to be used. So get their opinion, and then you can prioritize those opinions before you make your final decision. And your opinion as a gym owner, where you're considering durability and lifespan, and more, if you consider that more important than how easy it is to move or the weight of it or things like that, it's okay to prioritize those things in the best interest of your investment in your business. So you have a business to run, so you have to make good investments, and sometimes a little bit less is more when it comes to running a successful gym. And sometimes those opinions are so varied that the answer is, you know what, we're just not going to get that right now because we can't agree on where it's going to go or how it's going to be used. And you're better off not having it than having a piece of equipment that is misused. And then make sure you really know the differences between the equipment. So you sometimes need to dig into it. Sometimes we make decisions based on what we see another gym doing, but we haven't really dug all the way into what the differences are and if they are doing it right. You have to select a piece of equipment that fits your overall plan. And succumbing to a pleading coach that wants something because it's important to train a specific athlete, while maybe it's a good decision for training that athlete, it may not be in the best interest of your business or fit safely into your plan. Speaking of facility, don't buy any new equipment without knowing that you have room to fit in your gym, or you will make room to fit it in your gym. And if two items need to share a space, make sure it's part of your plan to schedule the time or the people to make those changes. And then when it's not in use, where is it going to go? Having space in your gym for storage is important, because there's a good chance if it's not safely stored away, it may get in the way and cause an injury itself. And then once you select the equipment, you must stipulate based on the purposes that, and we'll discuss that in a minute, but stipulate how it's to be used. And don't try to make one piece of equipment fit the needs of all the students in your gym. It's like choosing one pair of shoes to go with every outfit. although a lot of us guys sometimes do that too. So take the time to figure out your return on investment. Very often gymnastic club owners are so passionate about gymnastics that they don't put the best interest of their business first. Simple formulas will enable you to calculate the new customer needed. The term that's been used, NCN, is abbreviation for new customers needed for each piece of equipment. So if you look at that and decide you need another set of bars, you should also calculate the NCN, which how will that have to affect your business to make that a worthwhile investment. Another key criteria for every piece of equipment is your return per square footage, and that gets more into the business side of it. But whatever you're planning, in a business sense, fit it into your gym safely and into your business plan wisely. Okay, a bar is a bar is a bar, or is it? If we look at these two bars, the two pictures here, and if we're just considering the top bar, you would think that the major differences in the top two rails here, and let's forget for a moment that these two happen to be AI products. I just have easy access to those pictures. But assume that any manufacturer offer these two, and we're talking about the obvious differences in the top two rails is differences are the floor dimensions, how much space this is taking up, the footprint, the adjustability, the ease of moving, how low the bar goes, how high the bar goes. They're the major differences. But the real difference in these two bars is the intended purpose, and this is sometimes what we forget. So if you look where the red arrows point, the big difference in these two rails is this collar. It's the point where the bar is attached to the upright. The bar on the left is designed to move in two directions. It's designed to move up and down. It's on a swivel pin that swivels in one direction. So the bar does flex up and down for kip motions and muscle-up motions and any beginner level skills. It will flex under the weight. The bar on the right is where it's connected. That collar is designed to rotate in 360 degrees. So that goes up and down, forward and back, and at every angle in between. So that bar is designed to withstand multiple giants, release moves, re-grab moves, catch, anything that's more big swing moves. So in selecting what bar you're putting in your gym, in addition to cost, footprint, all those things, you have to say, okay, am I ever going to be training high-level athletes with this, and I want to train them safely. So the bar on the left would never be one for an elite-level athlete to be training a complete routine or a complete, series of movements on, where the one on the right would be. Understanding the manufacturer's recommendations, these are some of the things that I took off the manufacturer's website. That the first one from AI, it just says, AI recommends anchor updates as the new style adds strength and reduces the number of stress points that weaken over time. So about 5 years ago, AI upgraded all their floor anchors based on the torque that's being put on them. When they tested the pressure on the rails, it was much greater than when athletes were doing more simple tricks, so that they upgraded both the tension of the cables and the anchors. The second statement just basically says, in the life cycle of every product, there comes a time when replacement is necessary. One of the key ones is being that a men's high bar is a metal flexing product, and metal does fatigue, and even though that high bar is shot peen for strength, it's a process that adds more strength to it. Over multiple uses of bending that product, that metal bar, it's going to weaken. So they recommend, in a normal use, average use men's program of high-level athletes, that high bar should be replaced every 5 years. So things do have a life cycle. The the last statement was, I believe, on States America's website, and basically they're just stating to follow guidelines in terms of choosing the appropriate equipment and properly setting up equipment. So this is all there to help you. And a key warning that I'll share based on my years in the business and being involved in a few accident litigation cases over the year. If you're going to cross-assemble 2 or more manufacturers, get permission from the manufacturers first. It will protect your investment. It will protect your warranty. It will protect your coaches. It will protect you and your business. You don't want to cross-assemble things that maybe have different purposes. Now, there have been instances where manufacturers have cooperated and they offer permission. I remember way back, the first fiberglass rail was manufactured by AMF, but first used on Nissan bars in a national competition. So they agreed on how that was to be used, and it was perfectly safe for everyone there to do it. I've in the past seen permission granted that SA bars will be perfectly safe if installed in AI floor plates. But again, I would get the permission before doing it. You may already have plates in your floor from one manufacturer, and you want to add the other manufacturer's product. As long as the location of the plates and the type of plates is the same, there's no reason you wouldn't get that permission. I've also seen Gymnastics space savers that have been approved for both SA and AI bars, but it's worth taking that extra step and asking. As we cross over and kind of blend in selection and purpose, this slide shows many options for a spotting station, and they're all good. Based on height and stability, 3 of them are much better for spotting, say, a giant swing on a bar. 3 of them would be less stable and wouldn't be recommended. So part of your purposing is to make sure that you get the right thing. And as sometimes we see in a non-gymnastic setting, there are times in the world where an item may look good, but not for the intended purpose. The ladder on the left is a perfectly good piece of equipment, but maybe is the intended purpose on the right isn't how we should be using it. The next thing, just because you find something in your gym doesn't mean it's right for the job. The octagons in the top left corner, there's nothing wrong with them. They have many good purposes. They can be used, on a bunch of different training skills, but they're not designed to stand on to spot even elementary tricks on this bar, whether it's lying down or sideways. The foam and the construction of these products is such that it's not going to give you a stable footing. It also takes away the lifespan of that product because you're wearing it out. The intended purpose of certain items just don't withstand. If you have foam steps in your gym that are used in your preschool program, they're probably designed to hold children up to about 50 pounds. A coach spotter of 150 pounds probably is too heavy. So there are instances of good products, but not for that purpose. So these are just my key wrap-ups in purposing equipment. Make sure that your purpose or my purpose and its purpose, and then we make a team decision as how it's used. The expected need versus the expected lifespan, you need that for standing on right now, but in the long run, is it going to be taken out of service because it was used for the wrong purpose? And where are you going to put it safely, both when it's in use and when it's has to be in storage or out of use or out of the way? That all has to be part of your plan. Discuss ideas with the entire staff and so that everybody agrees on the do's and don'ts. if you have don'ts in your gym for certain pieces of equipment, make sure everyone knows that and adheres to it, and that you don't get caught with an open workout or an open gym where a coach who's maybe not there as often is using things in an improper way. And then stick to the plan. And, lastly, the purpose does affect your return on investment. So look at the real cost and real value, and standing on a piece of equipment to a spot that wasn't designed in the short run is cheaper than buying a spotting block or a spotting station, but the real cost down the road, is much more than the purchase price. And then anticipate the negative. How is this is this a good idea? Is slanting that ladder against the wall maybe seemed to make sense to that gentleman at some time, but in the long run, it's probably not a good idea. And like the bottom line says there, a shiny red convertible is not always the best decision until you get everybody's involvement in making that decision. Next step in keys is placement. Did we lose a slide here? No. Okay. So in placement, it's make sure that you have a big picture. In the next series of slides, we're going to take a look at gym layouts with differing amounts of equipment. And, I honestly don't know what the intended plan was for each of these gyms, so I'm just going to look at them and ask some questions. And I think this first slide, we're looking at primarily a boys' gym, it appears to be. And so if you look at the two vault directions, and based on arrows, we're vaulting in two directions. And if you're not participating in both lines, then we have to creatively ask, what's the return path? And what are the chances that there's going to be someone stepping into an area or a run? The same area for the mount and dismount areas are the parallel bars, which are close. Now, some of these may be perfectly safe, and all you may need to do is delineate things. You can do a lot to make things safer in your gym. If you know areas of danger, investments in red cones or safety cones or signage makes a lot of sense. It looks like let's go back to that one, the boys, one more time. It looks like we have 8 pommel horse stations there, and which is fine. My question is, and I don't know what the gym's use is, so it may be that you only have 8 boys at that station at a time, so everybody's on a station. But if you have multiple students waiting for turns, I have hard time finding where they're going to sit safely, and a lot of times that happens when we don't plan for the queue areas or waiting areas. Okay, the next one I think is primarily a girls' gym, and it's tight, and gyms get tight, and it all good, looks good in laying out a gym until we look at it and realize that perhaps we haven't taken into consideration that we need to put 100 children and 10 coaches in here with it. So, my question would be, if you look at the top left-hand corner, you can see looks like a single bar in the corner. And so the question is, entrance and exit from that station, where do they go? Where are they waiting? How are they moving? And perhaps this gym owner has a plan for that, but those are the things that you have to take into consideration. And sometimes it makes sense to leave one beam out or one piece. Change your rotation on how you schedule classes and schedule within classes, and create extra space so that you can have you can stay safe. The next one is a combination. All of a sudden, it looks real nice. All the white area, we have walk areas between. It looks good. I still go back to the top single bar up in the right-hand corner, and it's a little bit tight getting that person out of there. So you look at it, and we obviously you fit a lot of balance beams in there. and you have to look at what extra spacing can you have. Where you have two beams that you can actually work dismounts from. The others are fairly close. So it's just you have to consider all those things. And is there one more? And I think that's the same one that I had in there before, so that's really tight. And as I said, the one thing that changes it all is when we add kids and coaches to the gym, and then all of a sudden we see that it can get a lot more crowded. So here, as I look at this gym, I think there's about 20 children in here and 7 or 8 coaches, and it looks hectic and it looks crowded, and that's probably not even a full class. I think this gym is somewhere in Canada, but I'm not certain. But as you look at this, there's areas that you can look at that create accident, and one thing you have to be aware of is that many accidents happen not while on the equipment or dismounting from the equipment, but walking from one to the other. So if you look at there's 2 boys in the front in red shirts, and to the right of the one boy, you'll see that the space between the red and the white, it looks like the red is elevated, it's a runway or it's a staging area, and that unlevel area between the white and the red is where we're going to see accidents occur. And if it's blocked, the vision's blocked, you see right in the middle there's a boy in a yellow and a red shirt. They're walking in that direction. He's talking to his friend. As he gets to that place, he's maybe not aware, and when that change in elevation, that's where we're going to have accidents. So not that every accident ends up in a lawsuit, but you want to protect yourself and say that I did my best job at making this as safe as possible. And this is one of those gyms where I don't see a lot of active walk paths, and maybe in this gym this is the most children that are ever in there, but I would think that it's going to get more crowded than that. Okay. So to look at placement, 1, it should be part of an overall plan. 2, you need to be aware, is it permanent or portable? Is the equipment adjustable based on age, size, or skill level? And if it is adjustable, then your settings of the surrounding equipment have to be based on the maximum size or width or activity, or you have to have a plan to move what is too close to it. So the adjustability where it adds to your program, it also adds the challenge of keeping the gym safe. I'm a big proponent of having an entrance and an exit to each station. Have a plan, have the kids know it, and this can be done with, you can mark exits, entrance with Velcro. You can have seating areas that are marked with cones. You can set up your gym so it's safe, and if everybody knows where the queue line is, it's like going to Disney. Everybody knows where to get in line. I think that's what we have to do in our gyms. Lastly, but importantly, there's 2 things. 1, plan a space for your coach and your queue line, and viewing if it becomes necessary. Okay, and then for installation, which is near and dear to my heart, I started my career doing this, and these things, if you go back to the key influencers, I'm not going to go through them all again, but these key influencers are things that are real important when it comes to installing. So you have to know what the building and landlord permit, what the insurance company expects, what the rules and regulations are. There are ASTM standards for installation, manufacturer's specification and instructions, and then the human dynamics of the use of it all affect how you're going to install that equipment. There are many factors that go in inside. The first goes back to the selection. They all tie together. So you have to make sure you select the correct hardware. Many anchors look the same, even work the same, but either haven't been tested to the same level or are not warranted at the same level. So the anchor that you may buy from Home Depot or Lowe's or somewhere may look the same, but if you read the fine print, it's probably not guaranteed for commercial use or your intended use. So choose wisely. When installing any piece of equipment, always follow the instructions of that manufacturer. And if you feel you must change the installation procedure, sometimes things won't fit, it's worth the call to that manufacturer. In many cases, we get calls all the time. We've got a stage in the way. We've got a pole in the way. Sometimes obstacles can be an asset, and we can find ways to anchor to them and change the equipment. Manufacturers will help you achieve your goals and make it as safe, but you don't want to work around them. Cost is always a factor in installation projects. I'm well aware of that. There are less expensive parts, and there's less expensive labor on the market, but it's not good this isn't a good place to cut corners. Manufacturers, suppliers, and dealers can help you with selecting the right person for your installation or supply the person you've already selected with the correct information so we can help uptrain that person if you have a qualified contractor that can do this. Once floor plates are installed, you probably want to mark the uprights so you know where. Then this becomes an easy check on your daily checklist to see if that upright has moved. It's a little bit off straight vertical. It's something that you want to change before it continues. Once it's off by a few inches, then it's off by 6 inches, and then it comes down, and it seems like it happened overnight. You need to know which uprights can be set at an angle and which ones can't. So it does differ with equipment. When you're connecting to the wall, you have to know where your load is. What is a load-bearing wall? Where the pull on that wall? Are you pulling at a shear, meaning perpendicular to the angle of the anchor that goes into that wall? And when you're connecting to ceiling or I-beams, it's always best to use beam clamps versus bolt throughs. The advantage of beam clamps is that they put the bolts at a 90-degree angle to the pull, so you're never pulling within the way the bolt's going. And if you're not sure, use an installer, or as I said, consult with a manufacturer. The next several slides, I think, come from the field and things that you need to be aware of. They're two perfectly acceptable floor anchors that are both AI anchors. The one on the right is what was used up to about 5 years ago, and is now used for some of our more basic equipment, elementary equipment. The larger anchor on the left is used for the installation of equipment that requires much more dynamic movement, such as uneven tie bar rings. AI changed the anchor recommendation on these about 5 years ago, and always recommends that you upgrade. So if you have high-level kids doing giant swings and your bars are anchored with the old style anchor, maybe now's the time to update that one. This is just, it shows you down there, bottom left, AI recommends anchor updates, and this gives you all the anchors and how you can update your anchors in your gym. And I know that floor anchor seems like you can go into Granger and buy the exact same thing. You may save a little bit of money, but the peace of mind that you get by having what is recommended and has been tested under gymnastic use, I guarantee you that the manufacturer isn't testing these at the same level that we test them, based on the most dynamic movements that are being done. So you want to follow those upgrades. And these, if we go back to that one, that's the beam anchors that I was talking about. That you see, the top one's the easiest one to understand. The bolt that's holding it is going crossways, and you're hanging a rope or ring underneath it, so you're pulling perpendicular to the bolt. That becomes very important. So you always want a 90-degree pull. You always want ceiling suspension to have a double lock system. The beam at the top is a triple lock, so there's 3 ways that locks in place. And you always these are things that you always want to inspect, and again, you want to document every time you inspect something. Okay, inspection, and this is based on experience I've had in outside industries. Inspection becomes very important. Some of you perhaps use inflatable bounce houses and such for birthday parties, and maybe live in the states where they've come under state regulations, and the state is actually telling you how often they have to be inspected, what manufacturers you can and can't use for your own safety, what you should be looking at, what are safe practices. In the state, I know specifically in the state of Pennsylvania, every time you inflate an inflatable, it needs to be inspected by a state inspector. And you can have someone on staff get approved and get licensed as a state inspector. So this inspection, it must be a team effort. You have to have your coaches and your kids trained. And the way that the athletes participate in this, they learn to not jump up on the bar without putting a hand tighten on the spin lock or T-handle. The coaches always take the one last look and one last feel on that, so it becomes part of their schedule. And then you have a schedule for when there's a more meaningful inspection done. And lastly, you keep a paper trail of what you're doing. And as I said, in other industries, it's become commonplace. It is coming in the world of gymnastics. There are going to be regulations that we're going to have to follow, and the state is going to get involved in it. And most likely the first place is going to be in foam pits, and we're going to see that. If you haven't already seen it, I know some of you in California have seen that, but it's coming very quickly. This is just the process that I believe is a good way to do daily checkups. This is, I say, who moved my cheese? Why is that out of place? And is there a reason for that? So the very visual things you see, what's missing, what's added there, what shouldn't be there, and then check the moving parts, cable tighteners, spin locks, snap locks. Those things can be done on a daily basis. Your weekly pickup is walk the floor, look under some mats if things don't look just right. Adjust Velcro, reposition the bases that are a little bit off vertical. As we looked in the picture of the gym with the uneven surfaces, if you can start filling up those spaces and making it flat, good thing with carbon bonded foam and some other firm foams, you can level out the floors in your gym. And then just start keeping a list of needed parts, and as time permits and budgets permit, you can start fixing those things. And then monthly fix-up, that's scheduled time each week for repairing or adjusting things that are out of order. With this is something that's important. Take pictures of threads, rails, mat compression, and if you take pictures and document it, you will see things over time that you say, wow, this was only 6 months ago and it was here. Things don't happen overnight. Things don't fail overnight. So chart the changes, replace worn parts before they fail. In the end, it will save you a lot of money. Industry standards are coming around to it where whether the insurance companies are going to require it or not, but an annual inspection by an outside independent inspector is going to happen. It's no different than the food industry sends a health inspector in, the fire inspectors are probably in your buildings checking on those things. It will happen in our industry. Probably foam pits will be the first area to come. These are just some pictures that we took when we say, okay, how to notice a problem. Some things are very obvious that, you know what, that needs to be replaced. The concrete's worn, and the anchor that's in there is not a manufacturer specified. So there's easy problems to see right off the bat. You can see things like this. This is not a manufactured part. No manufacturer uses bolts that are that thin. Having 4 thin bolts doesn't provide the strength of one of the correct size. So there's an anchor that should be replaced, and it's missing a nut. This shows you that metal parts do fatigue, and fatigue parts wear out. None of these things happened overnight. That crack there, that's something you want to fix before, luckily it hasn't cracked all the way through, but that needs to be replaced, that part. And if you replace the parts before it goes bad, you can save a lot of problems that will be more costly down the road. There's cracks in the steel on the left. You can see where the springs are wearing into the steel and creating the groove in the steel. This is probably a tumble tramp or whatever. Yeah, in those areas where we're seeing issues where we have to react to these. Now, there are ways that the manufacturer can help you, whether it's re-drilling or repositioning or checking the ends of those springs. If the hole is wearing through, the spring is wearing through. And again, there's different qualities of springs. So just buying any replacement spring isn't the same as buying an official tumble tramp spring that's designed for that use. There's more metal fatigue. That's a very dramatic one. I don't know that I've seen that more than once ever, but that's again, it didn't happen overnight. It can be fixed, but it didn't happen overnight. That quick link, again, didn't happen overnight. One quick thing, if you see the quick link on the right, there's a right way and a wrong way to put quick links on. The spinning part that threads on should always spin down so that gravity is helping you. So one good thing you can do in your gyms right now is to go into the gym and check all those, make sure all quick links are threading down. Any cabled apparatus probably has quick links on it. Unevens have several on them. You can be checking all of those. Metal on anything else, metal wins. The space saver on the right looks perfectly good. When you look inside of it, it's worn out. It's time to replace the inside. Cable tighteners are the fastest thing that wears out, and one of the reasons that manufacturers have developed constant tension bars that don't need cable tighteners, because these are things that if you don't pay attention to them, you may wear through them, and in those instances, injuries, minor injuries can have, if it takes more stress to slide that than it should, is when you're going to pinch your fingers and you're going to cause problems. So you just have to look at all the ways you can fix that. Biggest area that we see, and it would take a whole nother webinar. Maybe sometime we'll do a webinar on pit design and use, but there's a lot of good features of free foam pits, and there's a lot of areas that have to be paid attention to. But as I said, if we're expecting government regulation to step in anytime soon, this will be the area that we're going to see them in. And this is just one pin, and some of the issues is we have a mini tramp without a padded frame. There's something in the middle of the pit there. At the far end, there's an unprotected concrete wall. There's no padding on the wall to the left. There's worn padding on the right. So there's a lot of issues here. And if you look at it, assuming that the foam was originally placed in here, this foam is probably compacted to the point where it's less than safe. And what we need to do is it needs to be loosened up or fluffed the pit, so the foam cubes and foam pits work because of the airspace between them. The more it's compacted, the less. So they do take regular maintenance to fluff these pits. So maintenance is make it clean, make it look good. Chances are you'll find the problems. Anticipate the wear and avoid expensive problems. You know, fix a bolt now rather than a full set of bars later. Make sure it operates smoothly. Your cable tighteners need lubrication. They need to be checked. If they have plastic parts or metal on metal, they should be updated regularly. Rotate mats to even out usage. Certain mats get more wear, even certain mats at a certain station. Learn to rotate mats, and I say that, but be careful that you don't have a coach that flips a landing mat. A landing mat upside down does not serve the same purpose. Post signs around your gym that help you maintain equipment and avoid problems. In problem areas, fix or post out of order. Don't just say we're not going to use that set of bars until we fix it. Post it out of order just like you would at the carnival or an amusement park. And then keep a watch list of wear points: cable tighteners, space savers, spreader bars, laminated rails. Equipment wears out. We have to be careful, and we have to pay attention to this and keep your paper trail going. And then lastly, as sad as it is, sometimes it's time to retire. Things sometimes do wear out. Equipment does wear out. I would say retire parts before you have to retire the entire piece. Try to extend the life. Trying to extend the life, if it's not safe to do, you don't want to do it. But repairing equipment will extend the life, and it's much cheaper than replacing it down the road. The more it moves, the faster it wears out. Things that adjust more, cable tighteners wear out faster than the height adjusters on your ring set because you don't adjust them. Metal fatigues. Any place where metal is bending, it will fatigue. Even metal cables that are bent. Metal cables are made up of strands that bend, and if one individual strand on a metal or steel cable breaks, it's time to replace the entire cable. They will all go. Metal on metal is a high wear area. Metal on plastic is even worse. Laminations wear out. Rails that have a thin layer of wood or laminate on them will wear out. It's important that you properly purpose those things. Rails become very attractive for obstacle courses, ninja things, all kinds of things. But remember, when you're doing that, you probably want to protect it because there's no sense letting that activity wear out a $400 rail that you absolutely need for your higher level gymnastics. Foam has a memory, but like some of us old folks, the memory starts to fail with age. So be aware of the depression in your mats. If they're too soft, it's time to retire. No failures happen suddenly. They will show wear. They will all give you signs that they're wearing out. Plan for your retirement. Have an equipment budget in mind so that next year you're ready for it. And last but not least, keep a paper trail of everything you do. With that, I think I covered what I was hoping to, and I think it's an important topic, and we will dig deeper into this.
Yes, and it is a very thank you, Steve. It is a very, very important topic, and I'm glad that you, all of our callers, got to listen and see just how important it is and how they can look for things to make their gym better, make their gym equipment better, and update what needs to be updated and let go of what equipment needs to be retired, as you ended on the last slide. We only have a few questions today, so we'll get to those in just a second. But before we do, we just wanted to remind everyone that we do have AAI articles on our website at If you go to the Club Services page, you'll see the resources and some of the articles there from Steve. And he also has quite a few articles on usagymclub.com, which is our parent-centered website. So you can visit our website to see some of the articles, and many of AAI articles have also been in our publications in Technique and USA Gymnastics magazine. If you'd like to contact Steve, here is his information as well as the AAI website. So it's AmericanAthletics.com if you have any additional questions. And you can also fill out the survey that automatically comes to your email at the end of this webinar to let us know how you enjoyed it, or if you had any questions that you couldn't think of during the live webinar, you can actually put those there as well. And Steve, we do have a question about beginner gyms. So how important is a safety pit for a new gym?
The pits for new gym, one, it creates more confidence. So I think they are important, and they're as important as the coach that's using them, as long as instructed properly. Pits are a backup, if you were. The first step is the proper instruction, which they're getting from the coach. The second is the coach's spotting and assistance. And then the last backup is the pit. So if there is a fall, it's done safely. And whether it's a beginner or an advanced gymnast, and most importantly for a non-gymnast, it's important that free foam pits, that everyone is aware that they're not made to purposely go into head first. It is a fail-safe in case you overturn or underturn an activity that will help save you. But as we see injuries take place, oftentimes it's the non-gymnast that's attending a birthday party that sees and maybe puts a little bit too much confidence in that pit. So to answer the question, I think they're very important for use with a properly trained coach and an attentive student.
Okay, wonderful. And our last question was actually about the teacher-to-student ratio in the gym. So I'll go back to this picture that we had during the presentation. This is a fairly large gym, but the question is, what is the teacher-to-student or instructor-to-student ratio for a gymnastics club, or is there? Is there a teacher-to-student ratio for a smaller class?
Well, I think that student-teacher ratio is more dependent on the activity than on the than the class in general. A good instructor can sit on that floor exercise mat with 15 students and keep them actively engaged in very safe activities. But if you took the same 15 and said, okay, we're going to go to the beam area, then all of a sudden you need to pay closer attention, and the ratio has to change. So in this picture, it's hard to determine who's with whom. If you see the lady on the left in the white shirt seems to be focusing on one student, while the gentleman in the far right back there kind of lost his group, so I guess he's waiting for another group. So I think, now even further off to the right, down by the bars, there's another. But, I know most gyms that I've been in, they're anywhere from 5 to 8. And it's also important that with that ratio, that the guidelines are set and the children know that when they're not participating, they're sitting here, they're not. So it takes a lot of control, and that's why my hats are off to the great coaches we have in this sport that are able to control and engage and entertain kids. And I think all of those things are important because we need to make it fun, we need to make it safe so both kids and parents love going to the gym.
Awesome. Wonderful. And our last question is about tumble track. Is tumble track something that every gym should have? And again, this is a question more geared towards the newer gyms. Should we have tumble track in a gym, and how important is that in a gym?
It's definitely a great training tool, but again, it depends on the ability of the coaches and how it's used. The more anything that you give children a higher either velocity of movement or send them higher in the air requires more coaching and requires paying attention and better instruction. So, to know that any of the tumbling devices, whether it's a tumble track, an air track, a rod, a tumble strip, a spring floor, all those things are good, and they help the right coach at the right time in the right situation. With that said, a tumble track in the backyard where kids don't know what they're doing and aren't getting proper instruction, I would say no.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that concludes our live question portion of this webinar. Steve, thank you so much for doing today's webinar.
Well, thank you. It was fun.
Wonderful. And you all, again, can view this webinar on our USA Gymnastics webinars page at usagym.org/webinars, and we'll have this full video available as well as the slides. So we will see you on next month, first Wednesday of each month at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have our USA Gymnastics webinars, and thank you all for attending. USA Gymnastics, begin here, go anywhere.